This is it. The Sony a7 IV, which is basically like a mini Sony a1, I guess we can say. It's faster, smarter, and more reliable, and honestly, just overall easier to use. And I'm gonna say that before we jump into all the nitty-gritty stuff with the Sony a7 IV, I just want to take this moment to say hi. Hope everything is good and very nice to meet you if this is your first time here. I just dropped a tech organizer the other day, and if you're interested in structuring your gear the way that I have, then I highly recommend you check it out. I'm going to drop a link in the description down below. I am super proud of this, and I really hope that you're going to be as stoked as I am whenever you get your own. Check it out. So the a7 IV actually has a new 33 megapixel sensor, which is the same resolution as the previous one had, but this time it's partially stacked, which means that it's going to be much faster than the Sony a7 IV. Another thing that Sony has done is that they put in a new Bions XR processor into this with its own little AI brain, which is basically going to help you to get better colors, more accurate white balances, and faster autofocus, and so on and so forth. It's just one of those like nice things that does all the work in the background for you without you even noticing. So the biggest upgrade is probably going to be the autofocus, because now it actually feels smart, such as the autofocus system that I have on the A9 III, which is basically capable of recognizing a bird's eyes and body, and then the human face, head and body, and so on and so forth. So there's multiple different options you can choose from: train, cars, airplanes, and whatnot, like insects. At this point, I don't even know what it can focus on. And as I said, the AI is going to do things on the fly in the background that you probably won't even notice, such as the auto white balance, which I think is amazing. So when I was out shooting together with Oscar, it freaking nailed it. Like, I didn't do anything. I was, just shooting, pressing record, and that was it. It looked good, straight out of the camera. Normally, whenever I'm out shooting with any of my other cameras, I usually have my white balance set to 5,500 Kelvin, mainly because I feel like that is the most natural. But now, when I was shooting this shot with Oscar, it came out so freaking good without me actually doing anything. And I think that that was kind of impressive, to be honest. Especially if you're a videographer and you're shooting in multiple different venues at the same time, or you're going from inside out and so on and so forth. That is where that probably will be the strongest thing, to have the auto white balance with the AI processor in the back end doing all that heavy load, so that your footage can come out looking actually really freaking good with just auto white balance. I usually don't talk that much about photos here on this channel, mainly because I feel like video is my way of expressing myself. But something that this camera has that I think is very freaking cool is pre-capture. And pre-capture means that whenever you press the shutter, it has already taken 30 frames before you press the shutter, because it buffers up 30 frames per second in the camera, and then when you press, it's like save those down to the memory card. So if you were trying to capture a bird that's flying away, but you missed it just when it left the stick, then you can go back and watch the previous second before you actually press the button to begin with. And that is kind of mind-blowing. But if you want to know more about that, head over to my friend Ole's channel, because he also tried this out and he loves the pre-capture feature. But taking photos is very important when you're making thumbnails for your YouTube videos, and that is where the sponsor of today's video, Artlist, comes into play. They've just launched a couple of AI tools that is really fun to play around with, but one of them, which is Nano Pro, has actually been enhancing my thumbnail workflow lately. So the way I use it is that I still take the photo myself, I edit the photo myself, but then I take the final edit and drop it into Nano Pro on Artlist. And this is where it gets useful, because it analyzes the photo and gives me different kinds of results depending on what kind of prompts that I put in to the model. You can add a sunset in the background, you can make things glow, you can adjust different kinds of outlines, and just makes things so much simpler than sitting in Photoshop for hours doing the same thing. Now, I'm good in Photoshop, but Nano Pro is on an entirely different level. And they also released something that is called Kling 01, which is more focused on AI-driven motion effects and that kind of stuff, which is super helpful if you want to explore different kind of styles and vibes that you otherwise couldn't do, but now have the actual possibility to do. So if you want to take your thumbnails to the next level, want to have some sound effects, stock footage, LUTs, whatever, Artlist is the place to go. You're going to get 2 months for free using link in my description. When it comes to the dynamic range, it supposedly has 16 stops, but we all know that is a little bit so-and-so. So we're gonna have to see. Gerald is probably gonna do a great video covering all the nitty-gritty stuff that I don't want to touch. And I am eternally thankful for that, because if you want to know everything about this camera, go watch his video. I'm just going to cover my thoughts and my opinions on this. But being able to have more dynamic range with a camera like this is never a bad thing. So I, for one, welcome it wholeheartedly. So what about the video features then? Well, finally, we have 4K 60 in full frame. Yes! That has been one of those things that we have been waiting for so long. But alas, we still do not have 4K 120 in full frame, which I think is a little bit of a bummer. I do understand it though, because this is a hybrid camera, but then again, I know that it's possible. Like even if we only got bursts in full frame, that'd be so good. But shooting in 4K 120 in Super 35 is not going to be a bad thing either. It all depends on what kind of lens that you put on there and what kind of shot that you're planning to get. But basically, if you're shooting with a 50mm lens, then that is going to be an 85mm equivalent, and so on and so forth. So you really need to think about the shots more than if you were to have a camera that is capable of shooting proper full frame, such as the A9 III or the ZV-E1 or the FX3 or something similar. Yes, I do know that we have a 10% crop in 4K 120 with the FX3 and the ZV-E1, but it's basically like full frame. It's not the 1.5 times crop. We have the 10-bit color space, you got the S-Log3, and the possibility to actually import your own LUTs into the camera. And this is something that I love, because whenever I'm shooting with any of these cameras, I am using my LUT imported into the cameras so that I can see a preview in the actual monitor of the camera how the footage is going to turn out. And this is usually what my footage looks like without a LUT, and this is what it looks like with my vlog LUT applied. So I'm going to drop a link in the description if you want to head over there and check it out. It's great. I've been using it for the last 5 years. No joke, like on all my videos. That's pretty much it, like the prime LUT and the vlog LUT. So to be able to actually import your own LUT into the camera and see how it's going to turn out when you're shooting is golden. For those of you that haven't been able to do that, this is going to be a game changer for you. We also have a better stabilization now, because they've actually improved the IBIS to 7.5 stops, which means that you're going to have a more steady shot and more stable sensor, even if you have those micro shakes when you're taking photos or when you're shooting videos. And I actually did a couple of tests towards my A9 III with the different steady shot modes that it got in the cameras. And I gotta say that at first I thought that the A9 III would be basically performing the exact same as the A7 IV. But then when I was scrubbing through the footage, I gotta say that the A7 IV looked like noticeably better in all the different modes. And when you smack this thing into dynamic active steady shot, you're gonna have a freaking smooth gimbal-like follow shot. It's kind of mind-boggling, but as soon as you start to move to the sides or get a little bit of shake like that, it's going to be way off. So I'd rather stay with the regular steady shot modes rather than going into dynamic active steady shot unless you actually need it. So when it comes to the actual design of the camera, there are a couple of improvements that I like. We have the tiltable and flippable screen, which is so good to have. The A9 III is a camera that I've been using for a little bit over a year, and it has been so freaking nice to not be able to have to lie down whenever you're taking one of these shots, and you can actually stand up like that and just look at the monitor. Come on, no more cameras without this kind of display system, in my opinion. Please, yes, thank you, Sony. But you also have a more comfortable grip than the previous version. It is not as comfortable as the A9 III, which I think is a little bit sad. I really wish that this grip would have been the standard for all the future Sony Alpha cameras. I love this. This is the perfect for my hands. It's beefy, it's deep, and it doesn't feel like your pinky is kind of gliding under there. I don't know what it is. I'm not saying that it's uncomfortable, but I do wish that the A9 III would be the staple point for all the grips in the Alpha series. It would be so nice. And when it comes to the actual monitor, it looks better, and the interface kind of flips with the monitor when you are rotating it. So you got the horizontal landscape orientation, and then you have the portrait orientation. However, though, when you jump into the menus do not rotate with it. Just keep that in mind. We also have the dual SD card slot, but also the possibility to use a CF Express card in the top slot, which I think is nice since I mainly use CF Express cards for my alpha cameras. It's not a must-have thing, but I do think it's a nice-to-have thing. All in all, I'm going to say that I'm not actually surprised with any of the updates in this camera, but I'm also not really disappointed in anything except for the 4K 120. But that is more so a video feature, so I'm still thinking that this is going to be a great freaking hybrid camera for anyone that wants to have the best of both worlds in the Sony Alpha system. And if you want to have the Sony's best video camera, then this is not for you. And if you want to have the Sony's best photo camera, then this is not for you. There's always going to be like compromises that you have to do when you're buying a camera, but this kind of fits in on most of those things. And there's probably going to be someone out there that's saying like, well, we didn't get OpenGate, damn it, Sony. So, do we need OpenGate for everything? Do every camera have to have OpenGate? I'm gonna be honest and say like, well, it would have been nice, but I don't miss it on this camera, even though it would be a nice to have, but I don't feel like I need it. There's so many times where I shoot videos with different purposes. So if I'm shooting vertical videos, I'm actually putting the camera like this. And if I'm shooting horizontal, I'm actually shooting like this. I would not use it in the sense because I probably stick with the different types of shooting. But that is just me. I would love to know what you think. Do you feel like it would be nice to have OpenGate in this camera or not? And what else would you like to see in this camera that it didn't have? Really hope that you liked the video, and if you did, please do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe because that would be highly appreciated. I would love to hear your thoughts on this camera because this is gonna be a minefield in the comments. I feel it. Looking forward to it. Peter från Sweden is saying goodbye.